bold prayers filled with power. Scan the QR code now and order your copy today.
Good evening, America. Happy Monday, and welcome to the latest edition of Just the News, No Noise. I'm your host, John Solomon. Large electricity outages and one harsh reality. There's no FEMA to come to the help right now of the folks in New England. Why? Because the Democrats in Congress defunded or allowed the Homeland Security Department to shut down over their anti-ICE protests. That's just one of the many stories we're going to be addressing tonight here on Just the News, No Noise, and all throughout tomorrow during our coverage, live coverage of the State of the Union address by President Trump. A lot of people are gearing up to hear what the president has to say about a lot of big news, and starting with tariffs. As you know, on Friday, the Supreme Court handed him a setback, but President Trump sounded much more upbeat after the last couple of days. In fact, he socialized a Just the News story over the weekend that said there are 4 paths to potentially getting back before the Supreme Court and getting his tariffs affirmed. It looks like he's thinking just like the Olympic hockey team, which lost to Canada in the Nation of 4 tournament last year and came back and won the gold on Sunday, celebrating alongside, among other people, the FBI director, Kash Patel, who just happened to be on Italy on business. He came by and raised a beer in salute to the incredible team and their incredible victory over Canada. Meanwhile, Mexico's most powerful cartel leader was killed by security forces yesterday. The Mexican military's killing of Nemesio Ruben Oseguera Cervantes, also known as El Mencho, set off a wave of violence in areas controlled by Jalisco New Generation Cartel, one of the most violent of all the cartels we've ever seen. A lot of news breaking on that. We expect the president to address that tomorrow night in the State of the Union. We also expect the president to address the situation in Iran, the sounds of war getting closer, all of the hardware that America would need for a large-scale attack on Iran in place, the Iranian government making its normal soundings of threatening America, threatening Israel. We expect the president in tomorrow night's speech to lay out a path for what he wants to get done there, why he wants to get it done, and what Americans' involvement and allies will be doing if there is a need for military force. We're keeping an eye on all of those stories today. But I want to get to one more before we get to our first guest. We're very lucky to be joined in a few minutes by Congressman Andrew Clyde of the great state of Georgia. But before we get to that, over the weekend we had 2 really big stories related to with the weaponization of government. I think they're so important. If you remember back a couple of years ago, we broke a story that said the Biden White House and the White House, and particularly President Joe Biden's White House counsel, were directly involved in sicking the FBI onto President Trump in that classified documents case. We knew that because of a letter we have obtained at the time from the National Archives that showed the direct line between the White House, the FBI, and the National Archives in starting that case. Well, over the weekend, we got new documents, compliments of Congressman Jim Jordan and the Justice Department and the FBI. They're new FBI emails, and they confirm what we reported. Yes, the FBI was fully aware that the Biden White House was involved and pushing to criminally investigate President Trump. Yep, one of the many direct lines to the Biden White House in weaponization that we now have established. And then we also had a story this morning. The Supreme Court, yes, nearly 10 years after Russiagate began with the Crossfire Hurricane investigation opening in July of 2016, in this winter of 2026, nearly a decade later, it is now weighing in on whether or not Carter Page, one of the targets of that unlawful FISA warrant, the one that was based on false information, misleading information, whether he's entitled to sue for 2 reasons. One, his civil liberties were breached because he was investigated without cause, without probable cause, and 2, his name was leaked and his reputation besmirched as a Russian, as an alleged Russian complicit, when in fact he was nothing of the sort. In fact, we know from Just the News' reporting, Carter Page was actually a patriot helping the CIA understand what was going on in Russia. He was actually an asset to the CIA on those important issues, not betraying his country as he was often portrayed early on in those media reports a decade ago. Hard to believe how slow the wheels of justice turn, but just the news confirming this morning that the Supreme Court is set briefing dates for next month on whether or not it should take up that case and decide whether a victim of weaponization, whether the victim of a false FISA warrant should be given some compensation or ability to sue the government. We're going to keep a close eye on that case all the way through its process. All right, joining us now, he served his country in the military, in the Navy, in combat. Today, he represents the great state of Georgia. Congressman Andrew Clyde joins us at the top of the show. Sir, good to have you on.
Well, John, it's great to be with you. Thank you very much.
We've got a big night tomorrow night. The State of the Union address is often a place where we hear what has been accomplished and also what the ideas are for the next phase of a presidency. What are you expecting to hear from President Trump tomorrow night?
Well, I expect that President Trump will tout the many accomplishments that we've seen over the last year. The fact that we have an absolutely secure border, something that we haven't seen in this country literally for decades, but we do see it now. I expect that he'll talk about the economy and the amazing growth in the economy that we've seen under his leadership. And then I expect that we'll also that he'll paint a path forward as to how this country is going to move forward. I expect he'll probably take Iran to task. I expect that he'll probably talk about the Save America Act. I hope he does, because I think that's so critically important for election integrity in our country. You know, he'll have the entire. So I'm really looking forward to being there front and center with a front row seat.
Over time, do you think he lays out a path for improvement in federal government, shrinking of federal government, more tax dollars eventually getting back into our wallets after we pay down some of our debt?
Yeah, I think he does, because the president has called to see as Congress move forward with a balanced budget amendment to the Constitution, because we have to get this country back to fiscal sanity. Right now, we are spending our way into financial ruin, and that's when that's going to happen. Now, I think what the president has done in increasing the economy and making it so much better, and what we've done in the One Big Beautiful Bill in reducing federal spending in the $1.6 trillion over the 10-year budget cycle, I think that will go, that will help us significantly. But I believe the president's going to talk about fiscal restraint, fiscal responsibility, and reducing the size, scope, and cost of the federal government as well.
Yeah, so very important, and something I think his base and most Americans are concerned about. They know that the path we're on right now is unsustainable. It's clearly improved a little bit, but it's got a lot of more room. I want to talk a little bit about the president, his visit to Georgia, his embrace of the steel industry, which has been benefited by his tariffs. Your thoughts about the messaging that the president brought to Georgia and to this great country?
It's always great when the president comes to my home state. He is truly a businessman. He understands business. He knows what it takes to be successful. And I think he's bringing that wisdom. He's bringing that leverage to the state of Georgia. And it was great that he came and spent some time with us. And I hope he comes back really soon. Yeah.
There's no doubt that it was actually really fun to watch there. There was a lot of joy and a lot of just candid conversation that I think a president accessible to constituents is so exciting to watch. But it was really a remarkable event. While that was going on, world history was still playing out before our eyes. One of the things that happened on Sunday when President Sheinbaum ordered her military to kill, or actually try to apprehend. It led to the killing of one of the world's most notorious gang leaders. He ran a cartel that was among the most violent. This Jalisco New Generation cartel uses tactics that even earlier generations of cartels didn't consider. How important a moment is it, and should Americans be concerned, at least temporarily, about the instability that the cartels are trying to create in Mexico and retaliation for this strike?
Well, John, I'm glad to see that America and Mexico are working together on this. I'm glad to see that that this particular cartel leader, I guess El Mencho, I guess is what they call him. But I'm glad to see that they took him out. The cartels have been sending poison into this country, whether it's fentanyl or whether it's any of the other drugs that have been pouring across our southern border. That now that we've done a good job of sealing our border from the illegal aliens, they still try and get drugs in here every possible way they can. And to take out that cartel leader, I think was a great thing that the government of Mexico did, and our support of that as well, I think is spot on.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. You've got a socialist president, acting president in Venezuela that's really now working with the United States after decades of not doing so. A socialist president in Mexico who not that long ago was making snarky remarks about the United States and its president, also working now to do things that President Trump. The Trump effect on diplomacy, the Trump effect on security, really measurable, even from some unexpected sources.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with you on that. Whether it's in Venezuela, whether it's Mexico, whether it's in Gaza, or Ukraine, I think President Trump had an incredible effect across the world when it comes to foreign policy and the strength that America has shown. The warrior ethos that the Department of War shows, and its ability, its incredible ability. If I was Iran, I would certainly take notice. They've experienced Midnight Hammer. What's next? I don't think they want to experience.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. And I assume the president tomorrow night will try to help the American people understand where he's at in that process. Still trying to get a deal, although it's a country that famously doesn't do deals honestly with us. What's your expectation? Do you think the Iranian mullahs bend and make a deal to survive, or do you think they're willing to take a shot and have the president unleash our incredible military might upon them?
Well, if they're smart, what they'll do is they'll take the deal. Because what we cannot have is a country that sponsors terrorism like Iran. We cannot have them in possession of a nuclear weapon, because then they will use it, and it will be terrible in its effect on whatever country, possibly Israel, possibly they might try the United States. But these are radical religious zealots, and they do not really understand anything other than strength. And President Trump is showing strength right here. So I would behoove them to make a deal with President Trump. It's going to be a whole lot better than the consequences, that's for certain.
Yeah. One of the things we know is Iran's backup plan for any engagement with Israel and the United States is using its proxy terrorists. Over the years, we've learned that some of the leaders of al-Qaeda have been given safe harbor in Iran or in the regions where they protect. We know that they use Hezbollah. How concerned should Americans be that one of the backhanded ways that Iran might respond is by targeting innocent civilians, as they've done so often in history?
No, like you just said, that is what they're known for. They're known for taking out civilians that are defenseless because they are weak themselves. They try and prey on those who cannot defend themselves, but yet they shy away from those of us who show strength. So I'll tell you that their proxies are very dangerous and need to be controlled. And if you can take out the head, I think the rest of the snake will be dead.
Yeah, I think that may just be the strategy that's at hand. Before we let you go, you've been such a champion for, there was an issue that has dogged veterans for years. 250,000 or maybe 300,000 veterans were put on a blacklist so that they couldn't exercise their Second Amendment rights. They were put on these.
To handle his finances, that person then gets reported to NICS, as someone uneligible to purchase a firearm and thereby defend themselves. That is such a wrong that is now being righted by the Trump administration. And it is just wonderful to see, because it's been going on for decades. It's what's been wrong for decades, and finally it's being right.
Yeah, when I first came to Washington in the 90s, it was an issue. It's just hard to believe it's finally been resolved. Two great Georgians playing a big role, two great military men, yourself and, of course, Doug Collins, a big win for all veterans in that. Sir, what a great honor to have you on the show tonight. Thank you for joining us and being part of the show.
John, always great to be with you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, really enjoy having you on. All right, folks, we got a lot more ahead for us. After the commercial break, we'll continue our discussion on President Trump's State of the Union address tomorrow and the Democrats' plan to turn red states blue with Congresswoman Marinette Miller-Meeks. We'll have that right after these messages. folks, you know I'm an investigative journalist. My job is to follow the facts. So when I wasn't sleeping well, I did what I always do. I went looking for answers. And I led a search that led me to GhostBed. I interviewed GhostBed's founder, who created GhostBed after multiple neck surgeries. He couldn't find a mattress, no matter the price, that would truly relieve the pressure and supported restful sleep. I was interested. I wasn't sleeping well, but I wasn't convinced. So after taking the online mattress quiz, I chose the GhostBed Signature Hybrid and put it to the test. The difference has been remarkable. I fell asleep almost instantly. That was new. I slept so deeply, I'd wake up surprised it was morning. When's the last time you slept so deeply that the world went offline? My favorite difference is the cooling science. I talk about this on the show. GhostBed is designed to release excess body heat, helping keep a stable sleep temperature all night long. No getting too warm and kicking out the covers, then getting cold and waking up. You can try GhostBed risk-free with their 101-night sleep trial. And if you need help, their sleep experts can help guide you. Get my special 10% discount when you use promo code NEWS at ghostbed.com/news.
Real America's Voice is growing, and now it's all in one place. Introducing the new and improved RAV app, built for access, community, and choice, not paywalls. Here's the key. RAV is still free to watch. No sign-in, no membership required. Your favorite live streams, breaking coverage, and video on demand are all right there. Free, just like always.
For the War Room Posse, we have to be a force multiplier on this. We have to stick the landing.
In the White House, in the Oval Office, you're crushing it, my friend.
And if you want more, the members section is your backstage pass. Get exclusive behind-the-scenes photos and videos, insider moments from the studio and the field, and early access to new content before it goes public. Members can also unlock special experiences like virtual meet and greets, member-only auctions, and select event access, plus commercial-free viewing of certain shows inside the app. It's not just an app, it's a community. Download the RAV app today. Find it in the App Store and Google Play. Welcome to Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Your quick look at the powerful stories of faith and freedom, inspiring audiences across the nation. Angel Studios presents.
I'm Bo Davidson with your Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Did you ever wonder what truly happened in the COVID-19 pandemic and whether Anthony Fauci would ever be held accountable? I think we all have. Filmmaker Jenner First has an upcoming documentary that searches for truth, transparency, and accountability called Thank You, Dr. Fauci.
Governments lie.
Anthony Fauci put everyone on the planet at risk without their consent.
It's beyond suspicious.
Research caused a pandemic, killed 20 million, and cost $25 trillion. Fauci would prefer a lie.
Public trust, national health, and global security are at stake as this documentary digs through thousands of pages of documents and interviews with former officials.
Welcome back, America. So many amazing things that the president will be able to talk about that's already been achieved. Plus, I'm pretty certain, having talked to the president recently, he's going to lay out a whole new agenda, new ideas to keep the ball rolling here in Washington and get a government working better for its people. Joining us right now, someone who knows a little about that issue. She's played an important role in getting so many great ideas through Congress in the last year. She represents the great state of Iowa. She's kind enough to come on our show often. Congresswoman Mary Miller-Meeks. Congresswoman, great to have you on the show.
It's great to be with you, John.
All right. So the president could spend the entire night tomorrow night just talking about achievements. In fact, he could spend the whole night just talking about what's in the big, beautiful bill, all the things that actually been accomplished in the last year that most presidents would take 4 years to do. What do you think are some of the most important that he should hit on to hit that dinner table conversation after the speech?
Well, first and foremost, I'm going to say unleashing American energy dominance. So American energy dominance, homegrown American energy, bringing fuel costs down. So if you recall, gasoline prices went in Iowa almost as high as $5 a gallon in 2022. Now I can find gasoline for $2.09. Actually, it was even less expensive than that. And if you recall, about 60% of food costs are energy costs. So bringing down the price of energy is also helping to bring down food cost as well. So I think American energy dominance, homegrown American energy, very important. As we know, that was something for 50 years the United States had been trying to do. He will certainly talk about the working families tax cut. That is huge for the American people. And as we're in tax season, people are finding out that their refunds are larger than they thought they would be, or they're paying less in taxes. So whether it is the doubling of the standard deduction, whether it's the provisions for small businesses or for farms and businesses with the death tax, so you don't have to sell the farm or sell the business in order to pay the inheritance taxes, the capital expenditures. We have companies, manufacturing companies in Iowa that are expanding. The research and development, immediate expensing, all of those provisions, the reduction in tax on tips, reduction in tax on overtime, and then some of my favorites, and that is the tax deduction on Social Security. So reducing the amount of tax you pay on your Social Security benefits. So $6,000 for individuals and $12,000 for couples. It's phased out, $60 per 1,000 income over 75,000 and 150,000. And then two of my most favorite provisions, which are something that I think is a game changer. And I had said this last year, and that is the baby account. So $1,000 into a baby account for babies that are born. So if you imagine a family that is paycheck to paycheck, and my family was one of those. We had no money saved up. When I left home at 16, I started working, going to community college. I was the first person in my family to ever go to college, the first ever to graduate. And so what a game changer for those individuals to have $1,000 in a baby account. Parents or friends can add money to it. And I said at the time that I thought you would have philanthropists donate also. And we saw Michael Dell come out, and then Charles Schwab, Turning Point USA, Foundation. So many other companies are going to come in. And then we know that Iowans and Americans are very charitable and very giving and very compassionate. And so now you can have $1,000 charitable deduction without itemizing your taxes. So that's beneficial for everyone who doesn't itemize taxes, and especially young people. So I think he'll hit on all of those provisions in the working family tax cut, which are going to make our economy better, as we saw with economic growth at 5.4%, and will continue to make cost of living and affordability better for all Americans.
Yeah. And, you know, it's funny. I think the national news media keep missing these things that are happening in communities all across the country. New companies popping up, new plants, new jobs. You just had Vermeer in Iowa announcing a major plant expansion, millions of dollars of investment, hundreds of new jobs. I think that's happening every day, and it falls below the radar of the national news media. There seems to be a manufacturing renaissance going on, and it doesn't get covered very often in the national media.
Exactly. And when I had been with Vermeer last summer, and we had toured the plant, and we talked about working families tax cut, and they specifically mentioned those provisions were going to be able to help them to expand. So I do think that that's important when we look at everything that's happened in the working family tax cut. And then I do think the president will talk about securing the border. As you know, 77,000 Americans voted for President Trump. One of the top issues was that we had over 10 million people come over our border. That included cartel members, young single men, fentanyl poisoning, as well as other illegal drugs, gang members. And so safety, security, a secure border was very important to the majority of Americans. And we now have the lowest crossings on our border. We have crime rates and murder rates are down, and we also have drug overdoses are down. So President Trump has delivered on that promise to secure the border. And so I think he'll talk about that. I hope he talks about housing. As you know, we're working very diligently in Congress to lower the cost of housing and make sure that the purchase of a home for young people is something that they can aspire to, instead of thinking that at in their 30s and 40s that they don't make enough to afford a home, especially with interest rates where they are now after 4 years of Biden driving up inflation and driving up interest rates. So I hope the president talks about affordability and what we're doing to make housing more affordable, as well as people's general cost of living to make that more affordable as well.
Over the weekend, a socialist president who for years her party didn't really do anything to abate a rapid rise of the drug cartels took out one of the most notorious drug cartel leaders in history. There's been a little bit of pushback on the streets of Mexico, I guess expected, because the cartels have so many far reaches. First off, how important a moment was it that Claudia Sheinbaum was really basically badgered by President Trump into taking some more serious action? And two, what should we be watching for here? Should we be concerned that the cartels may act up here, or do you think they got a powerful and unexpected defeat this weekend?
I think that this is a remarkable moment in our history. So remember, during the first Trump administration, President Trump actually worked with the president of Mexico to slow down immigration into the U.S. They had to stop, to apply for asylum before they came into the United States. So if they came from another country into Mexico, they had to stop in Mexico. He worked very diligently with, the president to stop flow. And one of the issues under the Biden administration were the success of the cartels in monitoring the border, sending drones across the border, sending millions of people, we had known gotaways, people on the terror watch list, for goodness sakes, coming into this country. And so addressing the cartels, addressing what they were doing, did have to not only have some interplay in the United States, but also in Mexico. And I think if you'll recall, there were representatives and members of Congress, such as Representative Crenshaw, who wanted the cartels labeled as terrorist organizations so that we could send military in there. So I think this is a very important moment to get Mexico or other countries to do their own policing and police work. And I'm sure that there may have been intelligence or other things provided to assist them with the United States. But think about the safety and security of the Mexican people, which sometimes that's a root cause of immigration to the United States, but also Americans who go down to Mexico for tourism. There were kidnappings, there were other, violent activities that took place to Americans when they would go on tourist activities, and that helps Mexico. So I think this is a remarkable event that happened, and I think you're going to start seeing this vast sea change in these relationships.
Yeah, we've seen it already in Venezuela. Now it seems to be in Mexico. It's spreading everywhere. It'll be interesting to see what the president can or can't achieve with Iran, with mullahs who are often disingenuous. Real quick, we got about a minute left. What do you think the best opportunity, or where do you think Iran will ultimately end up? Will they deal with the president or risk getting attacked?
I think when you've seen this president, he is not weak. He does not shy away from exercising power. We conducted Operation Midnight Hammer to take out Iran's nuclear capabilities. And remember, all through the 8 years of the Obama administration and the 4 years of the Biden administration, we were cajoling and capitulating to Iran. We would say Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon, but we wouldn't do anything about it, and we would let Iran skirt sanctions and sell their oil. And so we were actually helping Israel after Hamas invaded, which is a proxy for Iran. So we were helping Israel, but allowing Iran to skirt sanctions and raise the money to fund the proxies to fund the war. Yeah. And so I think this is a president who means what he says, and I would take seriously what he means. In Venezuela, as we saw, he was intent on having illegal drugs coming into the United States from a president that was working with the cartels, who was, unlike other Latin American countries, was not helping to stop the flow of drugs in the United States, and a person who is already under indictment, already had charges against him, and That's they right. went and did a brilliant military operation and brought him out. And I said at the time, and I think you interviewed me, John, I said on that January 3rd day that Iran And China and Russia better take notice, and including Cuba, that you are going to see changes in those countries because of this action. So we know that vacuums and weakness causes aggression, especially in dictatorships and authoritarian regimes. And I think they would be wise to take note of what's happening in the Sea of Hormuz, along their borders, and that this president has said that he will support the Iranian people. And if I were the mullahs, I would think twice about going forward into conflict with the United States.
Yeah, there's probably a few surprises, and they're not going to be good surprises for the Iranian mullahs or their leadership. Congresswoman, always a great honor to having the show. We always enjoy the conversation. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah, great conversation. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, why the Democrats vow to block the Save America Act and what Republicans can do to fight back, and ask that question to Congressman Troy Downing right after these messages.
Exactly what they're doing. They want to steal the election. We're going to walk down Pennsylvania Avenue, and we're going to the Capitol. They need to take back our country.
Events in Washington have taken a violent and tumultuous turn.
January 6th wasn't just a moment in history. For thousands of Americans, it was the moment their voices were taken.
It's insurrection.
They were persecuted, hunted.
Seditious conspiracy.
But behind prison walls, something unexpected happened. They found their voice again.
Started singing the national anthem.
We took it up to him at Mar-a-Lago. He goes, I'll put my voice on it.
Our supporters made this go platinum.
Real America's Voice is telling the real story of January 6th like you've never seen it before.
Everybody, this must be peaceful.
This is not the story you were shown.
I take responsibility.
This is the story they live.
Government entrapment scheme that this actually was.
The J6 Patriots are no longer staying silent. They are speaking, they are standing, and they are telling the truth.
You can't kill us. You can't beat us.
Scan the QR code or visit RealAmericasVoice.com. Real America's Voice presents The Sleeping Giant. Available now.
Welcome back, America. One of my favorite things to do when we're in journalism is sometimes to uncover hypocrisy. And we had a great example this weekend. The mayor of New York City, the socialist mayor, Mayor Mamdani, required photo ID and social security cards in order for his residents to get a job shoveling snow during the blizzard, something that his party claims is racist, Jim Crow 2.0. If you try to apply it to voting, I know you're scratching your head. We were too, but that's why that story is one of the most popular on Just the News this weekend. Joining us now to call out the Democratic Party for its blockade on the Save America Act, which would solve a lot of these problems. He represents the great state of Montana, Congressman Troy Downing. Sir, good to have you on the show.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. You know, you got to just stop and laugh about the irony of what you were just talking about there. You know, we've got almost 85% of Americans support showing ID to vote. And Mamdani is saying that that's racist, that that's going to, disenfranchise, all these folks. And you can't even shovel snow in the city of New York without showing ID and having a social security number. The whole thing is crazy. But here's one of the things that I think is really interesting. This clearly has broad bipartisan support amongst Americans. But we've got folks on the other side of the aisle in D.C. trying to fight that. What story does that tell you? It tells you that they're afraid if you have to prove that you're an American citizen to vote, that they're going to start losing elections. Why else would they be fighting this? And one of the things that I find particularly offensive about the narrative that they're spreading right now is they're trying to convince us that women aren't smart enough to be able to get IDs. They're trying to convince us this really hits my district. They're saying that folks in rural communities are not going to be able to, are not smart enough to be able to get IDs. The entire thing is insulting as they try to create some, alternate reality on how this is going to hurt everything and go against 85% of Americans that want to see this passed.
Yeah, it's just stunning. And I think the more we look at it, you have to wonder, there's not even a good political reason to do it unless this is part of a strategy to help them win elections. From what you know, and from what we've now learned about the driver's licenses coming in from China and some of the other things that are now no longer in dispute, are you concerned that there's a backdoor system keeping the voter rolls dirty opens the door for cheating, and that maybe that's what the motivation here is?
It's hard to speculate, what the total motivation is, but America wants to know that our elections are fair and complete, and everybody who has a right to vote is able to vote, and everybody who doesn't have a right to vote is kept from voting. It's really simple. And I think that anything that starts to subvert that, creates so many issues amongst the voters, and obviously, can lead to the end of the republic as we know it. This is something that's very important to me and my colleagues to make sure that we do protect the integrity of our elections, and the fact that we have this small group of vocal Democrat lawmakers that are opposed to it and trying to convince you that this is somehow, the Jim Crow 2.0, it's disingenuous and it's ridiculous.
In Georgia, when they imposed voter ID, voting went up. Actually, the last two elections, 22 and 24, they had more voters than in the past, completely undercuts the Democrats' argument. How do we get that story around the American public? Because I think the American public knows that some of the things they're being told just aren't true to them.
Well, I think the American public knows this. And I think the more that the Democrats fight this ridiculous fight and try to convince people that, rural Americans and women are not smart enough to be able to find ID and they're going to somehow be disenfranchised on that, I think they're going to lose a lot of support. And I think that this may play into our lap because, they're not doing the work that their voters want them to do. And I think that is a huge opportunity for us. We're just trying to protect the integrity of our national elections.
You served our country bravely as an aviator. This weekend, Mexico finally pushed into action by the Trump administration, taking out one of the world's most heinous drug cartel leaders. Your thoughts on what happened there, what may lie ahead in further weakening the cartels that have poisoned so many Americans?
Well, this is really interesting. I actually was down in Mexico. I met with President Sheinbaum this summer, and amongst a lot of things that were important to my district, agriculture and New World screwworms, a lot of things we were talking about, what was top of mind is fighting these cartels and, making sure that we had the support of the Mexican government to do this. And I think that the fact that they took out this leader in the cartel is a good step towards that. Clearly, there's been some retribution, but I think that, ultimately we need to keep sending this message that we're not going to stand idly and that we need to start taking this out. These drug cartels are harming Americans. And just like what we've seen the president doing in Venezuela, we're going to start seeing this in Mexico. I think we're going to start to see this in every country that is being adversarial to the United States of America, that we're going to start going after that. And I think it's a message that's being heard loud and clear. And I think this is just the beginning that is going to get us to the end where we start to rein that in and we no longer have that terrorism that is from the narco terrorist organizations that have been preying upon Americans.
Yeah, such a great point. In fact, the president declared him a narco-terrorist when no other president was willing to do so. So it's such an important thing. Before we let you go, you represent an amazing and bountifully resourced state that was stranglehold during the Biden era. The reversal of the MATS rule, the mercury rule, in the last few days by EPA. Good news for your country, for your state, but really for the whole country, right?
Well, it is. And really what happened is the Biden administration weaponized the EPA. And this is one of those things where, yes, everybody wants clean air, everybody wants clean water, but they made it so extreme that in this case, with the MATS rules, the mercury and air toxin rules that the Biden administration put out there, it was specifically aimed at shutting down coal-powered power plants such as Colstrip in Montana, because they knew that it was not possible for them to ever reach that, unattainable level that they had set. They knew it was impossible, so that would force us to, shut that down. This was just part of the Green New scam and the Biden administration trying to shut down natural energy, shutting down our natural resources, our fossil fuels, our coal, our oil. This was a clear attack on fossil fuel energy and on the coal industry. And I'll tell you, in Montana, that's incredibly important to our power to make sure that we have viable, affordable energy. It's incredible to the country. One of the biggest drivers to American prosperity is to make sure that you have affordable and reliable energy. And I'll tell you, I'm all of the above. We need to continue exploring alternatives, but right now we cannot ignore the energy that is right underneath our feet. We need to make sure that we're still producing that in a way that keeps the lights on in average Americans' homes.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, under Lee Zeldin, that reversal, that push is underway in a big way. Congressman, great to have you on your show today. Thanks for joining us.
It's always a pleasure. Thank you so much. You have a great day.
Yeah, you as well, sir. Always enjoy the conversation. All right, folks, a quick commercial break. When we come back, these rising cancer rates we keep talking about, we're really concerned about them. We're going to have a conversation about what you can do to fight back and protect yourself and your loved ones. First, quick commercial break, and then Dr. Peter McCullough.
Exactly what they're doing. They want to steal the election. We're going to walk down Pennsylvania Avenue, and we're going to the Capitol. They need to take back our country.
Events in Washington have taken a violent and tumultuous turn.
January 6th wasn't just a moment in history. For thousands of Americans, it was the moment their voices were taken.
It's insurrection.
They were persecuted, hunted.
Seditious conspiracy.
But behind prison walls, something unexpected happened. They found their voice again.
Started singing the national anthem.
We took it up to him at Mar-a-Lago. He goes, I'll put my voice on it.
Our supporters made this go platinum.
Real America's Voice is telling the real story of January 6th like you've never seen it before.
Everybody, this must be peaceful.
This is not the story you were shown.
I take responsibility.
This is the story they live.
Government entrapment scheme that this actually was.
The J6 Patriots are no longer staying silent. They are speaking, they are standing, and they are telling the truth.
You can't kill us. You can't beat us.
Scan the QR code or visit RealAmericasVoice.com. Real America's Voice presents The Sleeping Giant. Available now.
Welcome back, America. We're having a little bit of technical difficulty connecting to Dr. Peter McCullough. We're going to try to slip him in a second, but we're going to turn to a subject that I know is going to come up tomorrow, the economy in the State of the Union address. So much to talk about, including the extraordinary changes that have occurred in the manufacturing sector in America, in the investment sector in just a year. So much capital unleashed for a new American economy. Joining us right now, the founder and CEO of Ascalon 6 Capital, Anthony Esposito. Anthony, good to have you back on the show.
Hey, John. Thanks for having me.
All right. I think it's hard for some people with our everyday lives to appreciate just how much the economy has changed in the first 13 months of President Trump's second presidency. But it seems like investment's up Inflation's down, enthusiasm is up. Give us an honest assessment as someone who makes investments and tries to get the best economic opportunity for America. What are you seeing on the ground?
So on the ground, I think I'm seeing what everyone else is seeing. The pain and the hangover from the Biden administration is still there. So as we do improve, and there are improvements being made with the Trump agenda, with the economy, the good feeling is starting to kind of, we can see it there, but we're still trying to recover from a 30% price hike, for example, across the board under the Biden administration. So what are we seeing that's developing? Well, we're seeing real wages go up, which is extraordinary. We're seeing inflation based on the Trueflation numbers down from a 12% peak under Biden to almost 1% now under President Trump, which is extraordinary. Private sector job growth is going up. Construction jobs are going up. Native-born Americans have gained 2.6 million jobs under President Trump. That was a net negative number for the entire Biden administration, which is really amazing. And we're starting to see government jobs fall off. Government jobs are actually at a 10-year low, a decade low. So remember, those are taxpayer, inflationary, deficit, and debt-funded jobs that have gone away. So we're really moving in the right direction. Let's not forget energy. We had the national average on gasoline, I think, around 5.06 under Biden. That's down at around 290, which was great. That was at about 250 under Trump 1. So everything's kind of moving in the right direction, but I keep saying it. I've been saying it for about a year. It's cleanup in aisle 7. We're doing the cleanup. I think the pain is still there, but we're heading in the right direction.
Yeah, that's so important. I want to ask a little bit about the job creation of the Biden era, because without the government, there would be no job creation. Really, what happened under Joe Biden is he just funded government job growth and not really much private sector. Is that the right way to look at that era?
It is exactly the right way to look at it. They were government jobs and government subsidized jobs. So we had directly funded government jobs. We had healthcare and education jobs, which were being subsidized by the government. And we're being told everything is fine. Meanwhile, the private sector was being destroyed. We're reversing that now, which is extremely important. Remember, as you spend money to create jobs, those wages, those jobs actually become inflationary. It's pain for everyone else in the economy. What we need is true growth, true private jobs. And President Trump is getting there. He's getting there also through the trade and the tariff negotiations. Remember, when you start to onshore manufacturing jobs, and you bring in $7 to $10 trillion in private investment from our trade partners, that is directly benefiting private job growth, wage growth, and the inflationary within the United States.
Such a great point. Let me ask you about that. Obviously, the Supreme Court handed him a setback. I think initially President Trump was pretty tough on the Supreme Court, and then I think he realized the Supreme Court gave him a pathway. Just find another law that explicitly gives you tariff authority, and we're going to let you through. And he's sounded a little bit more optimistic in the last couple of days on the strategy. Well, how do you think this tariff debate plays out, both in the courts and the economy, over the next 6 months?
So to be clear, and this was what I think a lot of people missed, and I know you didn't miss it, but most people did. The Supreme Court ruled on IEEPA. It was not a sweeping rebut of President Trump's tariff authority. So the IEEPA, which is really sad, because the IEEPA tariffs were put in place mainly with China, Mexico, Canada, and India to some degree in order to secure our borders and stop the flow of fentanyl into the country. So anyone applauding those tariffs being removed should really take a good look in the mirror and maybe buy a one-way ticket to any other country except the United States. As we take the IEEPA was about $150 billion in tariff fees taken in. President Trump is going to simply use the rights that he's already been granted from Congress within the Trade Act of 1962 and 1974, that's Section 122, 232, and 301, which everyone knows by heart at this point. And he's going to use those rights, which he currently has. He does not need to go to Congress to be granted the right to do this. He already has congressional authority. He'll use those sections to replace what was removed through IEEPA. Yes, there are more hoops to jump through. Yes, it's going to take a little more time. The end result will be the same. The tariffs will be charged as they were. And I do love the fact that President Trump has already implemented the 15% 122 tariffs, and also let our partners know that if they do renege on agreements that we have based on the Supreme Court ruling, that is going to be considered moving down the road. It will not be considered as a friendly action. So I think we're going to be just fine. I think we're on the right track, regardless of the left and regardless of the Supreme Court ruling. He has the authority to do this, and it is the right decision for the country.
A lot over the weekend, the president actually socialized a story that laid out those very options that you just had. He was very upbeat about it. And I was thinking the U.S. hockey team is the perfect example. They lost the nation of 4 on a last-minute goal a year ago, and then come back and win the gold and the last-minute gold this week and get the Olympic gold. There's a lot of parallels between the Trump approach on tariffs and the Olympic team's pursuit of success. And I have a funny feeling they're going to merge in the next few days. Anthony Esposito, great to have you on the show as always. Always love your insights.
Thank you, John, so much. Have a great night.
Yeah, we really enjoy you so much. Good insights all around. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick commercial break, take another crack at trying to get back at the amazing Dr. Peter McCullough right after these messages.
Exactly what they're doing. They want to steal the election. We're going to walk down Pennsylvania Avenue, and we're going to the Capitol. They need to take back our country.
Events in Washington have taken a violent and tumultuous turn.
January 6th wasn't just a moment in history. For thousands of Americans, it was the moment their voices were taken.
It's insurrection.
They were persecuted, hunted.
Seditious conspiracy.
But behind prison walls, something unexpected happened. They found their voice again.
Started singing the national anthem.
We took it up to him at Mar-a-Lago. He goes, I'll put my voice on it.
Our supporters made this go platinum.
Real America's Voice is telling the real story of January 6th like you've never seen it before.
Everybody, this must be peaceful.
This is not the story you were shown.
I take responsibility.
This is the story they live.
Government entrapment scheme that this actually was.
The J6 Patriots are no longer staying silent. They are speaking, they are standing, and they are telling the truth.
You can't kill us. You can't beat us.
Scan the QR code or visit RealAmericasVoice.com. Real America's Voice presents The Sleeping Giant. Available now.
Welcome back, America. I'm always excited when we have this next guest. He is one of the most cogent voices in the world of medicine, and he also happens to be the Chief Scientific Officer, one of our great partners here at Just the News, the Wellness Company. We welcome back Dr. Peter McCullough. Sir, good to have you back on.
Thank you.
All right, I want to start with something a little closer to home here in the nation's capital. 250 million gallons of human waste dumped into the Potomac River, and a large potential for downstream problems in the water supply around the nation's capital. There's a lot about the incompetence that led to the failure, the inability to fix the pipe, not take care of it before it broke. But at the end of the day, now we got a potential health crisis heading into the spring when the snow thaws here. What should we all be worried about, and what should we be doing to take an early precaution?
We're talking a massive sewage spill, human waste. So that means E. coli, salmonella, viruses like hepatitis A, rotavirus. The water is not drinkable in any way. It's not even swimmable. I'd be very cautious in going out in the water downstream from that spill. Our pets shouldn't be drinking the water. And people should be thinking that if they got a bacterial gastroenteritis, they should have a medical emergency kit on hand so they can handle it. Remember, E. coli and salmonella GI infections are readily treatable, but you need prescription antibiotics.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's something you made so easy for all of us. I mean, the revolution that your company has created in telemedicine, we don't have to wait for the crisis to hit. We can have it on hand when it hits because we're prepared. And that's something amazing that the Wellness Company has done. There has been a lot of concern, a lot of talk about cancer, turbo cancers. We just saw a young star on television, James Vanderbeek, dying early of colorectal cancer. Why do we think we're seeing this surge, and what are some of the important things we can be doing to protect ourselves from that potential danger?
My hunch is that the most common cancers, colon, prostate, and breast, are all going up. I think it's due to the pandemic, John, and I would predict that it's both SARS-CoV-2 infection that 90% of us had and the COVID vaccines. They both load the body with the spike protein. The spike protein reduces our ability to detect and wipe out these cancer cells early, our natural tumor detection systems. I think we're all at increased risk for cancer. I got to tell you, I'm very worried about this. I examine all my patients very carefully. Myself and my family, I'm warning people, stay on guard. I think we've got about a 5 to 15-year window of cancer concern.
We should all be on alert. That is, you can see it. I mean, the rates are jumping. There's no doubt about it. Another place where cancer has been a big issue, the use of glyphosate in weed herbicides like a Roundup. President Trump, RFK, want to get rid of it, but right now the ag industry is just too dependent on it. We're sort of in a catch-22, perhaps.
We certainly are. We're talking about Roundup or glyphosate. It's the most commonly used herbicide. When you get a big jug of Roundup, that's about 41% glyphosate. There's enough medical literature to suggest it is associated with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, a form of adult cancer of the lymph nodes. And the greatest concern are people who work with it, like farm hands, people who are spraying it. Largely, you have to have a lot of exposure. It's not people like you and me living in suburban America. We have relatively little exposure. Now, Bayer Monsanto has a multi-billion-dollar settlement. People can actually place claims now for over 20 years. But RFK's come out and level with the country that we are dependent on this. We will need risk mitigation strategies. I think very importantly, we need to protect the farm workers. One of the things we've done at the Wellness Company is develop the SHIELD system. The SHIELD system is a system of oral capsules taken 3 times a day and then a drink. It combines the most potent botanical and medicinal herbs that are anti-cancer.
Yeah. Real quickly, about 30 seconds left. And you were the first person to tell me this. Ivermectin is a potential fighter of cancer. Now the National Cancer Institute is studying it. It's a big moment in the fight against cancer, isn't it?
It certainly is. We need to see ivermectin and mebendazole in combination in large cancer trials. The results are just too good preclinically and in small human studies.
Yeah, and you were the first to give us that insights well over a couple of years ago. We're so lucky to have this partnership with you and all the great folks at the Wellness Company. Sir, great to have you on again. Look forward to having you on soon. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, folks, for everybody here watching, if you want to take advantage of all the great products at the Wellness Company, twc.health/justnews. Use the promo code JustNews. You can get all of that great products. I use a lot of them. I'm just such a big fan of them. And I feel like they've revolutionized our ability to keep healthy. That's a pretty good thing. All right. We'll be back tomorrow night with full coverage of the State of the Union. Until then, we're going to hand off to the great Grant Stinchfeld. Have a great night.
Exactly what they're doing. They want to steal the election. We're going to walk down Pennsylvania Avenue, and we're going to the Capitol. They need to take back our country.
Events in Washington have taken a violent and tumultuous turn.
January January 6th wasn't just a moment in history. For thousands of Americans, it was the moment their voices were taken.
It's insurrection.
They were persecuted, hunted,
seditious conspiracy.
But behind prison walls, something unexpected happened. They found their voice again.
Started singing the national anthem.
We took it up to him at Mar-a-Lago. He goes, I'll put my voice on it.
Our supporters made this go platinum.
Real America's Voice is telling the real story of January 6th like you've never seen it before.
Everybody, this must be peaceful.
This is